Hello, everyone. Welcome to another preview edition of, Tyler talking to you about Dynamite. So, welcome in. Let me get the chat up here and not all my other imaging. Good to be back. Good to be here. We're here to talk the AEW Dynamite for November 2nd, 2022. And have quite the stack card this evening. As those of you that have seen my WWE versions of this, there's usually a snippet of things to discuss, a couple segments that are guaranteed to happen, and then a lot of filibustering by me to kind of fill in the gaps on those. And this would be the antithesis of that tonight. We're going to go here for 20 minutes or so talking about the show, unless you guys are really popping in the chat. But we will start with Hazan. Hello, good to see you. We'll start light, and then if the audience builds, we'll build to the good stuff. So I think Darby and Jay Lethal would be my least anticipated match this evening. So I kind of want to start there. This feels like it's been building for some time. The steam has been let out a little bit in the weeks it took to get from A to B here. And I'm curious what the result is here, because both Darby and Jay feel like they're on. Hi, Zach. Thanks for making it. They both feel Lethal and Darby feel like they're on the same trajectory, same path, and on the same place in the card. Hazan, I'm reading your comment here. Any guess on Jay Friend? Is that from the promo last week? Please. Miro. That makes sense. Someone's going to come in and help him. So, I think all these scheduled segments we have tonight are intriguing on their own matter. So, I still think this is intriguing. I just thought it was kind of the least intriguing going into it. But, if Miro appears and does something and is pushed consecutively for weeks on end, then I would think that would be a positive sign and one of the newsier items coming out of the show tonight. So we'll see about that. But again, with the match itself, I'm curious where they go. This is one where I think, let me look at what I have written down here. I think it's only only match in question tonight for what the result's going to be, which is, a positive as well. I'm just curious where they go. I would pull Darby off the top of my head because it feels like Lethal has won a lot of these, 60-40, where you think Jay's going to lose, and then he comes out winning to set him up to lose later at the pay-per-view, which would be fine too. If that's where they're going. If it's some combo of, let's say it is Miro who comes in, and it's Miro in Lethal versus Darby and Sting at the pay-per-view, which seems like a great pay-per-view match to me. A good way to, cleanse the palate, if you will, after some other epic match that's going to happen on that show. So that works for me too. Honestly, that would probably be a more positive sign if I'm a Darby Allin fan, is to, lose here to win at the pay-per-view. If he just wins here, then what's trajectory for both guys? Is that a net positive for both, or just a net positive for one? Or I feel like the win for Jay here can be a net positive for both. So we'll see what happens there, but just depends on what the trajectory is. You would think that would be established pretty quickly right after, as we are, 20 days away? I think we've, this plus 2 Dynamites before the pay-per-view. So important to get the ball rolling on some of those tertiary matches, because, you got to have 14 on an AEW pay-per-view. So got to get those stories being told quickly. So let us move now, unless you guys have anything in the chat. Yes, of course. Sting has to jump off something high on a pay-per-view, or else is it even a pay-per-view in AEW? I say no. So let's go. I think this Jade Cargill and Marina Shafir interactions have been interesting, and I think this could be a good moment for Jade here on TV. I think she's been intriguing in small doses on AEW. I think the promo last week was on Rampage that nobody watched. as I mused about on the VIP podcast where I recap Rampage, that the live strategy I thought might help, but it was one of the worst rated Rampages in its normal time slot on its normal channel of all time. So I know the World Series has a lot to do with that, as that was a pretty amazing game where the Phillies came back from 5-0 down. But an interesting thing that I think would be, if I'm Tony Khan, if the trend continues as we have a live Rampage this week and next week, if the rating just does not matter whatsoever, if it's live or taped, then I would foresee a taped Rampage in perpetuity for a long time here. But anyway, I digress. Jade's promo on that Rampage I thought was very good. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to go out and watch it, where she's got interesting lighting and is doing pull-ups while cutting a promo, which is very impressive. So, it's good to see Jade get action on the main show. So have 1 million people see her defeat Shafir here and set up presumably a match against Nyla to get her title back. And then I think that what you do with Jade then is the real question. And I think we'll see out of tonight. Well, not out of tonight, but after the pay-per-view, is how long can you kind of tell this sort of story with her where she's kind of on the fringes and then pops occasionally without her, cutting the shit, so to speak, and going for the main title, because that feels like something that could benefit the women's division tremendously and AEW as a whole. I think she still has the most star power of anyone in that division, minus Saraya, I guess, as the built-in draw that she is in the wrestling community. But, those two fighting feels like Saraya and Jade feels like the biggest match AEW can put on if they put some juice behind it. And, I don't think I'd have Saraya beat Jade, but if you tell a redemption story for her, if she can wrestle, if she loses to Britt and has like a program with her after the pay-per-view, and you build her up to like win that title, and Jade's been the champion for a long time, ends a 80-90 streak, and makes Saraya the babyface. I can see that working. I think that's kind of fraught in the actual details of it to extend that story and tell it correctly. But I think that's my best guess right now, Zahn, is that would be the case. But I love your suggestion of giving it to Willow. I think Willow, obviously being signed, I don't think there's anyone in the back that has anything but positive things to say about Willow. And that could be quite the Daniel Bryan-esque story within AEW, and could make Willow a bona fide star. So that is a better use of the streak, so to speak. Or have Brock Lesnar come in and end it, right? That's also another possibility. But that is, I think, a great idea long term. And then Zach, a couple of comments ago, I think it is, because it got rained out. I think it was supposed to be Game 6, if necessary, was Friday. And then Game 7 was going to be Saturday, but I think it's all pushed back a day. So I think Game 5 is Friday, 6, if necessary, Saturday, and Sunday, or maybe Monday, depending on what they do there. But yes, I think it'll be affected once more. So there you go. But excited to see that match. Excited to see where that goes. Just see Jade more on Dynamite than Rampage, I think, is a net positive at this point. And maybe her being on Rampage more than Dynamite is to kind of slow burn her and not have her overpower the rest of the women's division like I think she could if given the opportunity. So let's move on to, I think I was the only person, at least in the PW Torch sphere, who but was entertained by the, please insert the Daddy Magic entertainers line there, but was entertained by the Swerve and Billy Gunn segment on Rampage. It felt very much like old school, funny, haha, rating, reading the comments, funny haha segment that's, it's on at 10:30 on a Friday night, and it's for a feud where they claim they're not going to lose to Swerve in Our Glory. It helps set up Swerve as a heel in a good way. So you could argue about, was the presentation good? Was it just a Halloween gimmicky thing? Yeah, but we're also wrestling with pumpkins and putting pumpkins on people's heads in WWE, which I also like. So just, enjoy life a little bit, and would be my thing. Not everything needs to be so serious in pro wrestling would be my take. But anyway, if you did see that or did not, Billy Gunn's fingers were mauled, presumably, with some pliers. So tonight we have a celebration for said daddy ass, and I'm gonna guess that he's not gonna be able to scissor with the Acclaimed, and that'll be a sticking point, an enraging point. His hands will be bandaged, and we'll set up, some more issues between the two teams. And I'm curious, obviously, to see what Keith Lee does, acting like he's playing the babyface at this point. But does he, does he stay babyface, and that's why they lose at the pay-per-view, or does he turn heel as well with Swerve, and then they're kind of like go off on their own, but they're both heels at that point? I'm open to both, but I think Keith Lee's the face, and then Swerve being the ultimate heel, as Hassan is saying here. Heel Strickland could take the MJF place, which I think is totally true. I mean, I think Christian Cage was doing that, obviously, in the intermediate when MJF was gone. And I think Swerve can really do that, and he's really worked in a good spot. And I think that's why he's been so valuable for the company. His in-ring ability, his storytelling, his ability to be a strong babyface and a strong heel. I just think, one of the many unsung MVPs of AEW in 2022 has been Swerve Strickland. So, but yes, Ren is here and saying Billy Gunn may never scissor again, which would be, I think, much to the delight of Zach Hadorn. We'll talk maybe tomorrow on Fireside Chat about if he's excited about that possibility. But, and yeah, Zach, good poll. You love to pull your 90s wrestling like I do. Swerve and Lee have that Luger Sting 95 vibe. So also that'd be interesting. I'm sure that you would, Zach, you are always very positive on AEW, as I am most of the time too. But, you're in 95 WCW, right before the 96, 97 run for WCW. Is that kind of where we are for AEW as well? It kind of feels like it could be if the right decisions are made. So something to think about there. Sean is in the house. Hello, Sean. Thank you for joining. So for everyone joining, we've talked Lethal and Darby. We also talked Jade and Marina Shafir. And then we've also talked the daddy ass segment for tonight. Kind of going for what I think is interesting and or not. So let's go. Jon Moxley's wrestling tonight. Title's not on the line. He is in a world title eliminator match with Lee Moriarty. And on Rampage, they set this matchup, which again, I thought was a very strong episode of Rampage. That's why it's disappointing the rating was so bad. But set this up. They kind of reintroduced Lee Moriarty. Stokely did. So I think that's good. I mean, this is obviously a Mox win, but to give Moriarty hopefully some legitimate offense in for a period of time, make this a 10-minute match where Moxley wins convincingly. But, Moriarty is shown to be someone to look at ahead, down the line, like we have seen with Daniel Garcia, Wheeler Yuta, etc. I think is the place you want to be. And they've kind of dropped the ball with Moriarty in that front. And I think this could be a good starting point for him to kind of be that guy where if Ethan Page is going to be the one in that group going for titles, like major titles, have Moriarty be the guy kind of right below there as the, the good hand of the group, the worker. And so I think, the outcome is not particularly interesting, but the presentation of Moriarty is, right. And with that group in general, he's kind of, is this the first member of the firm who's had a match, like a match on TV since they've, I definitely since they've been fired by MJF, but since even they've been formed. So having him win here would be a positive sign for Page in his run to try and go to the tournament final, and for that group in general to be taken serious and not be a total joke. So obviously going to lose, but in what way? A squash match or a 10, 12-minute match where he gives it to Moxley and, gets choked out and not, pinned easily on something. So, interested to see that. Let's go from here. All right. I'm curious who you guys think Jericho is going up against tonight. He's taking on a former Ring of Honor champion. Maybe, he didn't say world champion, could be tag team champion, could be TV champion, could be 6-man champion, women's champion. Have not been a ton of those in Ring of Honor, but I'm curious what you think. There, Davey Richards recently had some comments on an interview that he felt disrespected. I don't know if that pops anybody to get Davey Richards. No offense to Davey, but looking through the chat here, Ren's got Colt Cabana. Man, that would be, I think that'd be a huge pop. And especially, I don't think there's any issue that if you're still trying to buy out Punk and see what's going on there, that would be quite the idea. And I'm here for it. Matt Sydal or Shingo. Yeah, Shingo's in town. That'd be something. I would hope they would give him a video package, and it would kind of suck to see Shingo lose to Chris Jericho, but that's good pull as well. Taven wrestled last week. Now he's aligned, came out the heel booth, so I don't think that is happening as of yet. I think it's not a former world champion, so I think you guys are on the right path there by going with the lower guys. Yeah, Tyler Black. Yeah, I think anyone that's currently signed to WWE or is named Phil Brooks is not going to be the person that comes out of that tunnel tonight. Suzuki, obviously, that would be great. I don't know if you're Jericho, you want to get outworked by a guy older than you, but would be interesting. So yeah, good takes, everybody. I think the New Japan angle here is one to look out for, since I think a majority of those guys are in the country at this time, and there's been a lot of tag team 6-man champions, etc. From New Japan in the past, but something to look out for there. It's wondering, how that is, that Forbidden Door match helps Jericho win and have it be a big time match. But I'm curious because, going through this, we have 2 more. I think 2 more matches. I don't think this main event. It could be the first match, maybe, because you get that big pop at the beginning of the show for the mystery opponent. And I think that could work. It feels like Jericho either wants to start the second hour or close the show, obviously. So one of those 3 spots you choose. I would probably say, again, to open, or maybe the 9:00 match. We will see. Because then beyond that, we have 2 other matches. We got the triple threat for the All Atlantic title, and then we have the ROH TV Championship match, which I think would main event. So let's save that for last, and then we'll get into kind of some speculation at the end here. Well, yeah, that's the ROH TV title. So I think that's going to main event Hazan personally. But we'll talk about that here in a second. Let's go to the triple threat. We've got Orange Cassidy taking on Rey Fenix and Luchasaurus as Orange Cassidy's gimmick, which I think is funny at this point because it's 2 matches in a row just to have to have a match that you are statistically more vulnerable, where you don't have to get pinned, and that kind of works in a level with his character of like not caring whatsoever. Like, you would never put yourself in that position multiple times. So I could definitely see this happening at least at the pay-per-view. And if he doesn't lose it there, then, I think he'll do that until he loses the match. And then he probably will not even get pinned and not be too concerned about it, which, for those that like Orange Cassidy, I think will be a perfect use of his character. And those who don't like anything fun will say it totally ruins that title, which has no legacy and has been made fun of ever since it premiered. So, so we'll see. But that match, we'll see where it goes. Could main event, I think. Could be in the middle of the show. Just depends what's important there. And as you guys have kind of said in the chat here, Jungle Boy returning makes a lot of sense. He screws Luchasaurus and obviously hurts Christian, and then Luchasaurus gets pinned or doesn't get the opportunity to get an easy win, would be the structure of this match, which feels right. I think Jungle Boy and his issue with Christian and Luchasaurus is more important in the long run of AEW than the All Atlantic title. So I think this is a good vessel to tell that story personally. Oh yeah, and then if Suzuki's in, and we can get Orange Cassidy and Suzuki, I think that is a dream match on AEW. For me personally, I'd love to see how that would go. So, but we'll see there. Curious, and then Ray just always in a match to have things be good. Obviously, Ray and Orange will have some awesome moments. So I think this will be a very fun match to watch, and I think it could main event. We know Tony trusts Orange Cassidy and has main evented him multiple times in the past. So we'll see if that is the case, because it's a strong show. It's just not headlined with a marquee must-see match. It's more of just like a good wrestling TV show. And then the last match, which I think is the best chance to main event or open the show, is Samoa Joe taking on Brian Cage. As Christian Cage will be out on the show as well, but not part of this match. So I gotta get all my cages right here. We saw Cage in the Gates of Agony come out and give him and Ward Joe, if you will, the what for last week. So holding up the title, obviously we're going to get Powerhouse, Hobbs, and Wardlow at a later date, presumably the pay-per-view. But this match being jumped up here feels right. Feels like you don't need this title defended on a pay-per-view. So feels like a good spot for it. Should be. I'm curious to see how the match goes, because Joe hasn't wrestled someone of Cage's size in AEW. So the presentation there, what's it going to be? Cage, I think, impressed last time against Wardlow. So can he have a similar style match with Joe, who needs his other person, obviously, to help him out bell to bell? So curious if Cage is up to that, and as he was versus Wardlow, and what the story is. But you guys are already jumping on it. Yeah, the Kingdom definitely feel like they're going to be on the show, as I even put on here. A All Elite Ring of Honor takes stage tonight, and it feels like the Kingdom coming out and setting up some sort of what? So it'd be, depends how many people want to do, because from one perspective, is this FTR plus Joe plus Wardlow versus Hobbs and the Kingdom and Cage, right? Is that your match for the pay-per-view? Some sort of 8-man tag? It's kind of what it feels like at the moment. So then you'd have Hobbs and Wardlow before that, or after that, maybe that Dynamite after. I don't know. Knowing Tony, it feels like that 4-man tag is what he would do more than some individual matches to get everyone on the show. So not a bad take there, I would say. And that feels more like the end of a show than anything to kind of set up for, Fallout on Rampage and Dynamite in the pay-per-view coming up. So, and Zach, I did not forget. I appreciate you bringing it up, though, because I have two things of not reckless speculation, but two more things left on the show to talk about. So that's the first one. So Renee is sitting down with Saraya and Britt Baker, presumably to set up a match at the pay-per-view, which I think would be good to get some solidification there. Obviously, we've seen Saraya take bumps and dish out some offense as well. Not huge bumps, but small bumps. And to get some solidification there to this match happening, and then making sure, the segment would help tremendously, obviously, to make sure that feels like a big event. Like, I know it's not for the title, but that's obviously the number one women's match on the pay-per-view if that does happen. So just present it as such. Sorry, Tony. Sorry, Jade at that point as well. But just have this be what it needs to be, and have a headlining women's match, and have this be the start of it. Zach, aren't FTR feuding with the Ass Boys? I think so, which is but you could probably get that out of the way before you have that pay-per-view match. But again, it could be the Kingdom and whatever. I don't even want to book that, because I'm actually not super interested in that match itself. So, but yeah, I think where there's a will, there's a way to get as many matches as possible on that card if you're Tony Khan. So the last thing I want to talk about is, obviously, last week we saw the Thanos Snap video promo for the Elite, for Kenny, for the Bucks, etc. So, curious if we see anything tonight about that. You would think that you would see something on 2 Dynamites in a row. If something is imminent, one would think if they did show that their first match back would be at the pay-per-view. Now, do they set up some mystery group to come out and, do they go for the 6-man tag titles? Or do they do something else? I'm curious what that's going to be, what that looks like. That obviously would show more closure is happening behind the scenes. So if I'm trying to recall off the top of my head when it was last week. I think it was right after the first match. So going into the second break, because there was a break during the first match last week, but there isn't always. So curious to see what we see of the Elite, if anything, if it's a video package, if it's whatnot. And, if they will be on the Dynamite before the pay-per-view, or if they'll just appear at the pay-per-view as a surprise. So that's what I'm looking for tonight. I appreciate you guys watching. And I may or may not be joining Wade for the post show. I might be a little late watching live. So just keep an eye out for that. If you do, please call or send your emails in. Zach, I know you will be emailing in. But so please check that out. And obviously tomorrow, Zach and I will be, Zach Haydorn and I will be doing the fireside chat at 4:00 here on YouTube. So appreciate you guys always watching. For those watching after it was live, make sure you hit that bell notification so you get an alert that whenever we go live, so you can pop on here like everyone did today. And you guys are the best. Thank you as always. And I will talk to you tomorrow.